are live here on a Friday, Rich Sports Talk. How's everyone doing today? We are talking New York Jets football. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today. And again, for those who are new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe for all the latest and greatest on the New York Jets. But you may have noticed that we're doing it a little bit differently today. If you're a follower of the channel, you will notice that this video should not be a surprise because this video comes to you in the form of a community debate. Again, I put on today, what video would you like me to cover for the Jets? 5 potential free agents, or talking about how the Jets could pass on a quarterback in this draft. We have decided to go with this one because that is what you guys wanted. So again, you guys help make this channel what it is. You help give great feedback to provide great content. And do not forget to hit that like and subscribe button so we can hit that YouTube algorithm to make sure that we get more amazing New York Jets fans in on the videos for more great Jets content. If you're joining us after the live stream and want to leave your comments, have questions, please leave them below. I will reach out to you once we have those comments. Again, if you weren't able to join us during the live stream. But the New York Jets have had quite an interesting offseason. We've talked about the free agents. We've done a bunch of previews, but now we're kind of in purgatory for free agency. Yes, there's still some movement. We're seeing some minor trades around the NFL right now. But really, it feels like there's this pause on free agency that I think you'll see kick up. It always does after the NFL draft. Now, we have speculated here for weeks, and we will continue. And, of course, on our channel, we do 7-round Jets mock draft. We have another one cooking for you right now, our 2.0 version. But with all that said, the Jets still have holes on this roster. So today, I looked at 5 potential fill-ins. Now, full disclosure before we begin, these are guys that I could see them targeting after the draft. And these are positions and interesting players where if a scenario doesn't go the Jets' way, because draft night, there's all the variables, guys who you thought were going to go early get picked, teams jump you to get the prospect you wanted. So I basically looked at these as contingency plans for the Jets. So if a position doesn't go the way they were hoping, or they get a player they were hoping for, or they just really want good value for a good veteran, that is the qualifications I was looking for. So here are the 5 potential free agents the Jets still could target. Now, again, I think a lot of this will come after the NFL draft. So let's get to it right away. Our first one up today is going to be Keenan Allen, our 5th one. Look, 32 years old, doesn't really fit the MO necessarily of a Jet who at this point in his career is a young guy. I mean, you look at the contracts, they're signing young guys in their 20s. But Keenan Allen, to me, could be a good depth piece. Like, let's say the Jets don't get a receiver in this draft. They had their eyes on a few people, but they didn't fall to him. They weren't able to get the right value. Allen is still a productive season. Last year was tough working with a rookie quarterback, working with a new offensive scheme. But still at 32, despite having one of the worst years of his career, he still was efficient as a pass catcher, 70 catches for 744 yards and 7 touchdowns last year, in what was arguably his worst year. I could see Allen still going back to the Charger, but to me, this is a good complementary receiver. I wouldn't love it if he's the Jets' number 2 going into next season, but if he's in the top 3 of the rotation, I do think it is a good value. I do think it is a reliable pass catcher. And to me, this is if the Jets aren't able to land a great pass catcher. Now, maybe they land a pass catcher in the form of a tight end, which we've talked about ad nauseum on this channel. But if they aren't able to get the wide receiver on the outside, just the way the draft falls, I do think Keenan Allen, for the right price, could be available. Now, keep in mind, an interesting tagline is, who did they play last year twice? They played Detroit. Maybe you look at Aaron Glenn, and he looks at Keenan Allen as a good piece, as someone that he struggled to scheme against, someone that was able to beat coverage. That might be someone that they keep an eye on. Now, this isn't the first choice, I think, for the Jets, for the wide receiver room, but I do think Keenan Allen is a nice contingency plan, especially because even at 32, even with a terrible year last year, even with injuries, even with a rookie quarterback, he still brought in over 700 yards of receiving, 7 touchdowns, and 70 catches. And let's be honest, when you look at the Jets' current wide receiver room after Garrett Wilson, no one in this room you feel can match that type of production. So number 4 on our list, and again, guys, I see the comments coming through. Make sure to comment on the video. If you want to make sure that yours is guaranteed to be read, you want to jump the line, or you just want to make a donation to the channel, make sure to bash that super chat feature. Number four on our list is Jedrick Wills Jr. Now, this has been a hot button, especially on this channel, because I've had a lot of people in the comments ask about why the Jets haven't signed him at right tackle. This is a talented kid, came out in the Mekhi Becton draft, but he's had a lot of injuries that have hampered his career. But there's a couple of things that I look for here. Number one, he's 25 years old. I think you can get him on a 1-year contract. To me, this is a scenario where, let's say, Armand Membou, or a tackle that they really want at 7, is off the board. They're able to draft Tyler Warren. They get to the second round. They're not able to trade in the first round. They get to pick 42. And they look at the tackles available, and they don't really love it. And they're kind of hoping maybe they get one in the third round. And then the third round comes around, and it's like, okay, we don't love a lot of tackles. I still think the Jets in some capacity will draft a tackle. But going into camp, with the backups at the right tackle position being Max Mitchell and Carter Warren, I think you would feel a lot better if Jedrick Wills was at least on the roster. I think it's a low-risk move. And to me, it reminds me a lot of Mekhi Becton last year for this simple reason. If the Jets bring in Jedrick Wills and they bring in someone to sit behind him and they learn and they're able to jump in next year, or the Jets just decide that they don't love him long-term, like if Jedrick Wills plays, maybe not even a full season, but is good for 14, 15 games, helps the Jets run the football incredibly well, he's going to hit the market again at 26 years old. If he can prove he can play at a high level, he might be able to get a decent contract. I mean, look at Mekhi Becton. Mekhi Becton was on the scrap heap. He goes to Philadelphia, gets a 1-year contract there, and now gets a 2-year deal to play with the Chargers. Now, why would this also be a smart move? Well, I think one of the things that Darren Muji is looking at is comp picks. If some of these 25, 26-year-old kids have great seasons and the Jets decide to move on, they could get a comp pick for him. And if you look at Jedrick Wills, and if he has a very good season with the Jets and eventually signs somewhere else, that could net them a comp pick, much like Morgan Moses did this year. So I do think that that is a necessary part of the game. I really do believe this is a worst case scenario where the tackle chips in the draft fell horrendously to the Jets and they weren't able to get the right value or the right pieces. But this is a player who at this point, and again, a lot of these guys on this list, this is after the draft. The Jets weren't able to get the need that they were looking for, and I'm going through scenarios where they don't find it. Jedrick Wills could be a competing right tackle. You feel a little bit better having 2 right tackles that have some experience in the NFL. You don't feel really great about them for a full 17 games, but at least you feel there's a competition. If one gets hurt, you can at least get away with one of the right tackles instead of going into the Carter Warren and Max Mitchell bin. Number 3 on our list of potential Jets free agents to add is Tyler Lockett. I really like Tyler Lockett. He's a long-time model of consistency and durability. He's not the speedster that he used to be, and I understand he has been in the league for over a decade. But I look at him as being a good, really good number 3 receiver. I really see him being a very good spelling receiver, coming in, making plays, getting conversions on third downs. And this could be a guy that could be a holdover if the Jets want to give Malachi Corley a shot to have a shot on this roster, or one of these young kids in the draft. Lockett can maybe help ease that transition, comes in day 1, plays early, and allows them to have that bit of a transition. Now, I understand that Lockett's numbers have dipped a little bit in previous years, but I still think he's a very reliable receiver. And here's the thing. After Garrett Wilson, the most reliable receiver the Jets have in that room is Allen Lazard. I know Tyler Lockett doesn't move the needle. I know he's not the same player anymore, and I know he is not a player the Jets probably really want being an older player. But sometimes you have to give these veterans an opportunity, and sometimes just having a veteran in the room is going to help, and having a security blanket. So if you want Justin Fields to work and have the best shot he can in this system, he needs to have reliable pass catchers. And really, after Garrett Wilson, there isn't a lot in that wide receiver room. Number 2 is probably the most interesting one ever. And I actually have an idea for a future video. Let me know if you guys want me to do like a hear me out cake for crazy scenarios for the Jets. That could be a future video, but let me know. But hear me out. Asante Samuel Jr. I understand that he is a red flag medically and there are concerns. But when I look at the type of player that the Jets have gone after in this free agency period, they've gone after 1-year deals. They've gone after 25, 26, 27-year-olds, guys that are still coming into their prime. They are looking for guys that are talented and looking for guys to get a second chance. He's gotten very little interest so far in free agency. I know he only played in 4 games last year. I know he's boomer bust in coverage, but there is playmaking upside. He's had 2 picks in each of his first 3 seasons. He's a ball magnet. He is someone that has been very good and has that NFL lineage. And you have a great defensive back coach with Aaron Glenn, someone that was in this position, someone that understands the position. And the other thing, too, is I look at the upside. If Asante Samuel plays great for the Jets next year, they're going to pay Sauce Gardner, we know. We know they've already paid Michael Carter. But if Asante Samuel Jr. is great and allows some of the other younger corners a little bit more time to develop before putting them into the roster, like a Quantez Stiggers, for example, I think it could be a good move. And like Jedrick Wills, you have to think of comp picks. If Asante Samuel Jr. doesn't work, it's a 1-year deal. No biggie. But if he has a great season for the Jets, has a couple of interceptions, plays the majority of the season, and hits free agency next year as a 26-year-old corner, he's going to get a contract. And if that happens, like what the Eagles have done, which is smartly pick up these 1-year deals with younger players to give them another opportunity, low risk, high reward, it also allows you to continue to stash crucial draft picks. So that's another reason why I really like this. And look, I think the Jets have a really great corner room. If Asante Samuel Jr. doesn't work out, it's not going to kill the Jets. I could see the Jets starting Quantez Stiggers day 1 as their number 2 corner next year. I could see that. And again, I know that worries some fans, but I do think the Jets have a deep corner room, and getting another talented player in there can't hurt. And especially with this defensive back pedigree, you look at Asante Samuel Jr., he's a ball hawk. Yes, he misses a lot. He has his moments where he misses coverages, but he also makes some spectacular plays. And one of the things this secondary has severely lacked in recent memory is a ball hawk, someone that can go get to it. And if teams are not going to throw at Sauce Gardner and throw at Asante Samuel Jr., some good things could really happen. I think this is a low-risk move. If it doesn't work out, no big deal. But if it works out great, you can get a really good young corner, and potentially you could maybe even turn that into more draft capital. And our final free agent is Justin Simmons. Look, I know he doesn't fit what the Jets are necessarily looking for. I know they brought in Cisco already as a safety, but I just look at his production, how good he was last year with the Falcons. He has gotten another cold reception in free agency. He's going to sign basically a 1-year deal. And look, he brings something to this secondary that they don't really have right now, and that's a leader on the back end. Yes, Sauce is an experienced guy, and I do think can morph into the eventual leader, but they don't have that guy in the back end. They don't have that guy that can be the quarterback of the back 4, back 5, depending on the coverage. And with Simmons, I think it makes the transition easier, especially if you have to play Adams, especially with Cisco out there with this cornerback group. It just is a reliable safety. Now, again, Simmons might not want to come to the Jets, might be looking to play for a contender, might be looking for that last shot to go to a competitive team. But to me, this is just a solid player that plays the position well, makes plays, but more importantly is a leader. And I do think the Jets have added some very good upside players. But one of the things that I think that they are sorely missing, especially on the defensive additions, is really a strong and proven leader. And especially now with CJ Mosley being released by the Jets have lost their leader of their defense. And this could be a guy that can at least step into that role for a year next year, and especially in a crucial transition year. I think that is incredibly important. So those are the 5 potential free agent targets that I have the Jets looking at for 2025 after the draft. Now, again, I think a lot of this comes down to the draft. I think the Jets might look to target a safety layer in the draft, but if they don't get the good value that they're looking for, then maybe it makes sense with Simmons. I think the Jets might be looking for a corner on day 3 of the draft, but they're not able to. Asante Samuel Jr. is an interesting option. I think Jedrick Wills Jr. is probably my biggest emergency. It's basically if the tackle scenarios don't work out, and look, it's the draft. It could easily happen. There's a world where the Jets get up to pick at 7 and both the top 2 tackles in Campbell and Membu are off the board. It's a little crazy, but we've seen crazier things happen. There's a scenario, and I've predicted in my mock, I think there's going to be a massive run on offensive linemen between picks 20 and picks 42 up to the Jets. I think you're going to see a lot of offensive linemen fly during that period. And maybe it's such a run that the good news is the Jets get a first-round talent to fall to them at 42 and a dynamic player. But the downside is then they don't really have a great offensive lineman. They feel it's a reach. Then they maybe try to come back again in the 3rd round. And again, maybe it's not a tackle they really love, and they just pivot and go, you know what? Maybe we'll just go with Jedrick Wills. We'll draft someone on day 3 where we're not really expecting them to play next year, but we want to develop them long-term. But we have at least 2 right tackles with NFL experience that can plug and play for at least next season. And Jedrick Wills also, Jr. offers you the option like Mekhi Becton. To me, the NFL now is getting very creative and really smart GMs win. Like everyone credits the Eagles and Howie Roseman. Well, one of the reasons Howie Roseman has done a great job is he's amassed draft picks. And one of the ways he has done that, especially with the compensation rules, is he's gone out and made sure to get a lot of young players on 1-year deals that if they play really well and the Eagles decide not to pay them or overpay them, they go to free agency, they get A money for a B player, or a C player gets B plus money, and that turns into a comp pick for them. So Wills and especially Samuel, like to me, those are 2 guys I look at and I go, okay, if they have comeback years and play really great for the Jets next year, then they could earn a Jets some valuable comp picks if they eventually leave the team. But if they don't work out, they took a shot on a young middle 20-year-old player with potential, with upside, with many people thought both of those are first-round talents. And unfortunately, injuries, it hasn't worked out. You're hoping that they get an opportunity. And the receiving room, I looked at Keenan Allen, I looked at Tyler Lockett, because I see a world where the Jets maybe don't even draft a receiver in this draft just because they have other needs before that. And I do think just having a nice veteran presence in there works either way. If they draft a receiver, it helps because then you don't have to worry about rushing that guy onto the field. And it also adds a body there where I do think this team's going to move on from Allen Lazard. I think what's going to happen, and they basically, Muji has told you that they are looking at the situation and basically going to reevaluate. And I guarantee you, June 1st, they're going to try to do what they did with Jamison Crowder. They're going to go to Allen Lazard, and they're going to go to Allen Lazard and say, will you take a significant pay cut? If he will, great. But in all likelihood, they will say no. They will cut him. At that point, after June 1st, they will save $11 million while only incurring a $2 million cap hit, where if they do it now, they only save $6 million, but incur a $6 million dead cap hit. And yes, they can still come after June 1st, but they can't pre-designate. You're only allowed 2 of those, and they've already done that with both Aaron Rodgers and with CJ Mosley. And there's also my conspiracy theory where I'm also hoping that the Jets are just holding on to Allen Lazard so they can eventually trade him to wherever Aaron Rodgers ends up, i.e. Pittsburgh. But who knows when that will happen at this point. But let's get to you guys. Again, guys, if you want to jump into the top of our conversation, use that super chat feature, use those stickers features, and we lead it off with Tony Alexio. Are trade out options available for the Jets at 7? It's hard to say, Tony. I think there could be options. The biggest things you look for trade down options are who falls, and B, who's behind you and desperate. Now, a possibility could be Shedeur Sanders falls to the Jets at 7. I don't think it's going to happen, but we'll play the hypothetical. The hypothetical is he falls to 7. The problem with the Jets right now at 7 is their neighbor is the Panthers at 8. And the Panthers are not taking a quarterback this year. Now, if the Steelers were right behind the Jets in a perfect world, that would be fantastic because we all know the Steelers are likely drafting a quarterback. The only players I see maybe coming up for is maybe Genty in a weird world. Like if it's found the Panthers really want him, but I doubt the Panthers are going to have interest in Tyler Warren. But the weird thing in this draft is those are maybe some of the only two blue chip players. Do you really want to pass up on a blue chip? My big thing for trading down is the assets I want are in this draft. It's next year's draft. If a team offered you a future 1 or 2, you would take it. Again, this year you might be getting 80 cents on the dollar, but the reason you take it is because next year is a deep quarterback class and it is a deeper class. And because of that, you want to have as many assets to move around next year's draft. So if you can get assets for next year's draft, great. But right now, Tony, I don't see a lot of scenarios. I don't. Drones, I'd take Lockett and I'd take Asante. I didn't know he was free agent. Yeah, surprisingly, I was surprised he was a free agent too when I was doing this list. I think the big thing is teams are scared because he's had a big injury history. He only played 4 games last year. And look, there are physical concerns, and I get concerned about players that have these massive injury breakdowns early in their career. Usually when guys are injured early in their career, they don't magically get healthy. But I just think with the Jets, maybe it might benefit him because he might not be a corner that's asked to play 80 to 90% of the snaps. Maybe he's asked to only play 50% of the snaps. Maybe he's only asked to play in a more limited role. And because of that, it saves him for longer durations of the season. It allows him to be healthier. And plus, it might give him more opportunities playing with great corners like Sauce Gardner. I also think it's low risk. If you sign him on a 1-year deal with not a lot of guaranteed money, if he doesn't work out, it doesn't hurt. But if he does work out, then you either have a good young corner you can still build around, or you can turn it into a comp pick, which is also valuable. Jedrick Wills is the same way. But I look at these wide receivers, and again, Tyler Lockett and Keenan Allen don't move the excitement needle. But right now, I almost just want reliable. I want a number 3 out there. Now, I know they've added another wide receiver to the room, but I just look at this wide receiver room and I go, after Garrett, really your next reliable option is Allen Lazard, who leads the league in drops. And I just look at last year for everything that went wrong in Chicago. And don't forget with Keenan Allen, they also had a lot of very young receivers in that depth room. And it's clear they're trying to get the ball to a lot of those guys. But Allen was still highly productive when he got the opportunity. I mean, 70 catches. 70 catches for the Jets last year would have been number 2 on the team. And I just look at him and I go, this is just a reliable guy that gets open and makes plays. Yes, he's had some injury concerns. Yes, he's not the same player he was. But right now, the Jets just need bodies in that wide receiver room. Because let's look at it. It's Allen Lazard, who they're likely cutting. It's Xavier Gipson. It's Malachi Corley. And it's basically a bunch of deck chairs. Like, that's basically what the Jets wide receiving room is right now. And you really can't win like that. You just can't. But I do know, guys, a little bit of a preview. We're going to have Dom on again on the show this Sunday night at 8 o'clock. I'll make sure to put that out on the channel so that you don't miss that. We're going to talk about the Jets draft strategy, players that he likes, and guys to keep an eye on day 2 and day 3, all the different scenarios. And again, make sure to like and subscribe if you're new to this channel, you're joining us during this live stream, or you're joining us after, because again, we do a lot of great content on this show, but we also really listen to you. This video was picked by you guys. Yes, you guys, because I put a poll on the community page. I asked, did you want me to talk about the Jets not drafting a quarterback potentially, or potential free agent options? And you overwhelmingly went free agents, 92%. So you were very clear and you were very loud on what you wanted to discuss tonight. And I do thank you for that. Yeah, Asante will be better cheaper than Stevens. Tony, the coaching staff really likes Stevens. They like his length. They like his physicality. But I think Asante, too, when I look at Stevens, like if Stevens is also going to be the penciled in number 2 corner, Asante coming in on this depth chart could be really good for him. He's not rushed into playing early. Maybe it's a situation where he replaces an injured player. Maybe it gets a limited role. I mean, he could be kind of what Brandon Eccles has been in the past, come in key situations and make plays. I think it's a nice low-risk option, especially if he's still out there. I mean, there's not a lot of talented 25-year-old corners. Even with injury history, I'd take a one-year shot on it. And it's like with Jedrick Wills Jr. I keep repeating it, but I think it's important, which is if they play great for you and they leave, they're going to be in their mid-20s. A team could give them a big contract, which leads to a very good comp pick potentially. Like if Jedrick Wills hits the tackle market, like if Jedrick Wills can play 16 or 17 games next year, looks really good, a team's going to give him a big bag of money. I mean, you look at what DJ Reed got out of Seattle. If Asante Samuel Jr. plays in 15, 16 games, has 4 picks with the Jets next year, I mean, there's a team that could give him 12 to 14 million in a multi-year contract next year. It's not off the table. We see it all the time in free agency. We see good football players get paid as great football players. And unfortunately, I know a lot of Jet fans are frustrated with free agency so far. I know they were looking for big fish. I didn't think this was a great free agency market, period. And the biggest thing, too, is I think they got Justin Fields out of this, which is, to me, was the biggest goal, was coming out of this without being petrified about your quarterback. And I look right now, it feels a lot better than if the Jets didn't have a quarterback right now. We'd be trying to discuss, do they go up to get Shedeur? Do they have to take Jackson Dart at 7? And now it takes a little bit of pressure off that they don't have to do that because they got Justin Fields. We look at a team like the Giants, they almost feel trapped at 3. If Shedeur goes number 2, what do the Giants do at 3? Do they just take Travis Hunter? Do they try to trade back? Do they feel like they have to take Jackson Dart or a quarterback early, or trade back into the first round for a quarterback because they're petrified one's not going to be there when they pick at 34? I mean, these are all very intriguing options. And really, I could have also called this the break glass in case of emergency. Because basically these are guys as if the Jets don't address the wide receiver position in the draft, if the Jets don't address the offensive line in this draft. And I think that they will attempt to. If one of the things that I think gets misconstrued is if a team doesn't add in the draft that they didn't look at. They were looking, but they just couldn't find someone that made sense at that pick. They felt they were getting a better football player and a fit. Now, sometimes if it's a need, that bumps it up a little bit more, obviously. But if you have a need position, but you feel a player is that much better than the need position, it's going to be very telling. And I still think the Jets are going to look at right tackle. Don't be surprised if they take one at 7 or 42. But the Jedrick Wills Jr. was more if they couldn't get a tackle. I mean, there's a scenario where there's a run on tackles at the end of the first round. The Jets get their 42, and they look in the dust cells and are like, we don't like any of these guys, but there is a receiver we have a first-round grade on that we could bring in. There's a defensive tackle that we're going to plug and play right next to Quinnen, who's going to make a big impact, who fell to us, who we didn't think was there. Like, what if like a Walter Nolan from Ole Miss, who's a first-round defensive tackle, sitting there at 42? Because when there's a run on a position, the good news is it pushes good players down the board. And if that happens, yes, it sucks the Jets don't get the offensive tackle. But then you look at the other end of the coin, they probably get a better player than they were expecting at 42. Maybe they get a really good defensive tackle. Maybe they get a really good edge. Maybe they get a really good wide receiver that they weren't expecting. Like Amika from Ohio State, I really doubt he gets out of the first round. But we've seen weird stuff with certain players for no reason drop in the draft. And if there's runs on offensive line or tight end, especially in that 25 to 41 range right ahead of the Jets, you certainly could see them going a different position. So really this is the break glass in case of emergency instead of just potential free agent targets. But again, guys, we will have a lot more stuff coming out. We will have a special with Dom C this Sunday at 8 o'clock. Where we will go over the NFL draft. We'll go over some of his favorite prospects to keep an eye on, and, of course, the prospects that the Jets are keeping a close eye on as we get closer to draft night. Again, if you're new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our latest content. Also, check out our shorts on YouTube. And if you want to make a donation, you can always with that super chat feature. But I'm your host, Nolan Rich. Thank you so much for joining us here today on Rich Sports Talk. We will see you next time.